Hello, everybody. Welcome to
Good
Thursday
evening.
night. The X-Files theme piano version playing in the background, courtesy of. I closed the page. Let me see. I want to give props to this person because they did a real nice version of this X-Files theme on the piano. Whenever I get the chance, I start the show with an alternate version of the X-Files theme because we don't want to get hit with copyright. This was done by. I have no clue. Good Lord, how professional of me. Here we go. The X-Files piano version by a YouTuber. This is called live podcasting. How are you, by the way?
Swell.
There you go. I got it. It's by Mew, MYW. Okay, Storming Area 51. The truth is out there. The 90s Illuminati song as a piano cover. So of course, the main title is by Mark Snow, but the piano arrangement was by this guy named Meet You. So good for him. Subscribe to his channel. He's got a whole lot of piano music on there. Sounds nice. Get you right to sleep, but in a good way. I like this arrangement. So guys, we are busting into season 4 of the X-Files. I can't believe we've made it this far, Pete.
No, I can. I started season 5 tonight, actually, so I'm gonna have to jog the old noodle for details on some of these early episodes.
Yeah, it's cool when you do the research sometimes on some of the episodes and you find out so much of the behind the scenes stuff going on that made it onto the screen. It goes back to season 2 really with Gillian Anderson getting pregnant, and then they had to do the whole um, abduction, and Scully gets pregnant and all that stuff that becomes a big part of the show later on. But I was reading some background on some of the stuff happening with the show around season 4 and how successful it's becoming in this planned movie. But we'll get into that when we talk about that episode that
Yeah, the
directly
torrent that
correlates
I
to it.
have actually has a lot of DVD extras, and I watched most of them for seasons 1 and 2. I didn't, and I think season 3 as well. They didn't have as many for season 3, but I have not watched the season 4 ones yet. I will
I
make a
watched
note of
that. Yes, because I like when you bring out all that extra behind the scenes stuff. And season 4, guys, by season 3 was a big season for the X Files. We gave a little bit of a season recap last week, how we felt about it. And the show went from cult to pretty much everybody was watching it by season 4. The ratings were generally in the 17 to 18 million, and it was still growing. I think it would grow to at least 20 to 20 some million
Yes.
per
Yeah.
episode at some point. So this is really when the show was in the zeitgeist. It still on Friday nights. And so I remember staying home Friday nights, not going out with my friends, just to watch me some new X Files. So that's what it is. That's what it is, folks. I do remember I've been saying for a while that season 4 was my favorite when I did a rewatch back in the day. But I don't know. So far, the beginning of the season wasn't as strong as I recall, except for a couple classics here. But season 3 so far has been my favorite of the bunch. So far, we'll see what
Hmm.
happens towards the second half of the season. So I'm going to let Pete start us off today. We're going to begin with part two of this mythology episode, and it's called Heron Folk. Heron Folk.
Yes, Herrenrook.
Yes, and it's the continuation of this storyline here with Jeremiah, who was not a bullfrog, but he was an alien hybrid. Uh, and it's he's being pursued by the bounty hunter. Okay, the last episode was called Talita Kumi, by the way, which was the season closer. This was viewed by 21 million people on October 4th, 1996. Written by Chris Carter, directed by R.W. Goodwin, has an 8.6 rating on IMDb. Pursued by an alien bounty hunter, Jeremiah Smith takes Mulder to a farm where he finds several girls who are clones of his sister. What a wacky episode, but I think I enjoyed this one. What do you got, Pete?
Yeah, so last week we finished our recap with the season finale. Of course, by this time, X Files was going all Dallas, and every season had to end in some kind of cliffhanger. And our cliffhanger at this point was basically just Mulder, Scully, and Jeremiah trapped in like some kind of junkyard or abandoned factory. I don't know if we ever got what that place was, but they're trapped by the alien bounty hunter who's basically invincible. Of course, it's not much of a cliffhanger because we already know Mulder's got the secret weapon. He's got the
Mm-hmm.
syringe that if you stab it in the base of the bounty hunter's neck, it's going to kill him. And that's pretty much what happens. They get out of that situation in about 2 minutes. Except that the bounty hunter isn't actually dead. I don't know why. I guess Mulder didn't just got him in a weak spot, but not the sweet spot. So the whole
Mm-hmm.
episode is basically the bounty hunter chasing Mulder and Smith because they have to leave Scully behind, and they head on up to Canada, and we know that's where the episode's going because that's actually the opening shot of the episode. We see this telephone worker working somewhere out in rural Alberta, and he gets stung by a bee and dies, and all these creepy little children sort of look at him disinterestedly and walk away. So that's where this episode is going. That is very much where it's going. And it culminates in this weird bee farm in northern Alberta where Jeremiah takes Fox because that is allegedly where he will find his sister. And he does, but there's a bunch of his sister, just like the last time we saw her. This time, though, she's not an adult. She's the same age she was taken. And all these little mini Samanthas are performing like worker drone functions out at this bee colony. Why, we don't actually ever find out. Typical X Files fashion. The story wraps up nicely, but we don't know much more than we did before. In terms of how it wraps up nicely, one of the other cliffhangers was that Mulder's mother was dying from complications related to her stroke. Mulder wanted Jeremiah to go heal her, but of course she's under surveillance, so they can't do that. In a shocking, compassionate turn, the smoking man actually has the alien bounty hunter heal her, so that's resolved. And our man X ends his long run on this show, but Mulder gets a new buddy in Miss Laurie Holden, who fans may remember from The Shield, from The Walking Dead, from The Americans. I've totally forgot she was on this show, so she's been on quality shows for a long time. But yes, X is out, and what's her name? Marita is in.
I
Overall
like that.
criticisms, good episode. Like I said, it ended the story. It wrapped up all the loose ends of the story, but didn't actually give you any more information on what was going on than you had in the beginning. So kind of a typical X Files mythology episode that way. Not a lot of light shed on anything, but in terms of actual events, everything wrapped up. Major plot development with X getting taken out of the picture. The introduction of the bees turn out to be a big thing over the course of the series. And I like the showdown between the bounty hunter and Mulder and Jeremiah at the end. Some good action. I like the little trap they rigged for the bounty hunter in the beehive. That was pretty nasty. And it ends in a big bang, literally. We get a big explosion. So all that stuff was good. Thumbs up. Not a lot of complaints except for the lack of revelations, which is just par for the course with the X Files, really.
Yeah, that's usual X-Files. Give me 1 second, Pete. Okay, no. I'm with you. I gave it a 3.5. You know, uh, nice opening to the series, but not much. Not much is concluded. But by this time, you're kind of used to it.
Yeah.
It gets a little frustrating as the series goes along, but okay, whatever. It definitely had the Children of the Horn meets the Bees set up for the movie. You know, these bees become kind of important for the movie, which I'll be honest with you, I forgot what the whole deal with the bees was. I think they're supposed to be able to transport.
No, they're being used to spread smallpox.
Is that what it is?
Yes, they allude to that here because all the Jeremiah Smiths they disappear, and Scully has some of their data left, and they find that um, the data that they were working on is related to the smallpox vaccination program, but that's all the information they get out of it. There's another episode later in the season that sheds a little more light on that.
Or what the whole
That
bees?
episode's all about the bees,
Okay, yeah, good.
smallpox bees.
The small, yeah, because smallpox has been brought up before. Because when they found that big, that hangar with all those files, and it was everybody that had
Yes.
had smallpox vaccination. So goes into that. By the way, the title here is German for the master race. So it's this whole allusion to either the the hybrid, the colonizers trying to create a
Mm,
master race, or the
yeah.
colonizers themselves. We're not sure yet. The show breaks that down a little bit later. Um, just say just some things that I thought were funny is how Scully, when the bounty hunters come in, she just says, "Stop right there, sir," and I'm like, "What a douche, man!" Scully's so by the book. That's why we love her. She's so by the book. It,
Yeah. I
well,
thought it
she
was
isn't.
kind of a dick move of Mulder to just leave her there too.
Yes.
I mean, he thinks the bounty hunter's dead, but he didn't turn into a pile of steaming green goo like most of the aliens do when they're dead. So
I mean,
yeah, kind of a dick move of Mulder.
unless it's another version, like a clone of him. I don't know if is it the same bounty hunter? I'm not sure. But yeah, it was kind of because I think he said to Scully, "He's not after you, he's after us." And then Scully just
Right.
puts her gun out. "Stop right there, sir!" And then he just smacks the shit out of her. Um, yeah, I got a little bit frustrating. This is one of those episodes where they're teasing information, and you're just like, just say what you got to say. Like, of course, we wouldn't have 40 minutes of episode if Jeremiah was just like, look, there's a farm out here with a bunch of little clone kids, and they're doing this, and this, like in one line of dialogue. But it's always
Mhm.
this wait till we get there type of dialogue, or I'll show you, but not right now. We got to run, and you're like, come on, just say what the whole master plan is. It would be so. I mean, it gets frustrating, but I get it. I get why it's like that. Um, but it was funny that the alien bounty hunter can survive getting shot. He can survive a whole bunch of stuff, but those bees, man, they did the job on
No,
him.
he survives that as well.
Does he get up?
Yeah, no, he survives.
But they blow it up
He
after. Is that how they get rid of him?
they blow him up, and I don't know if it's him or if it's another bounty hunter, but he's the one who heals Mulder's mother at the end.
Oh shit, you're totally right. I forgot. I thought that was Jeremiah still. Jeremiah is dies. Yeah, which was sad. Oh yeah, I do have it here on my notes. X dies, that's sad. Jeremiah dies, that's sad. And Mulder's mom lies there through most of the episode, and that's sad. But yes, the bounty hunter did heal Mulder's mother at the end of the episode. And is there a little thing about the cigarette man needing to get his cancer cured, or is that coming up later?
Yeah, no, they don't actually mention that at all. It's
Wait,
weird. That
after
was like
a
one of the big
motorcycle
things
just.
of the season finale, but
Wait, wait,
they
wait, wait.
actually I don't think they mentioned.
Can you say that again? Because a motorcycle just passed. I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, they actually don't mention anything about his cancer in this episode, which is kind of weird. In fact, it doesn't even come up a lot during this season. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
he just got it taken care of by the bounty hunter. Like, yeah, well, you're at it, fix me too. Plot problem resolved.
Yeah, because it just kind of, whatever. That's X Files does that sometimes. They just forget threads, or they're just like, okay, whatever. It's been a week. People forget. I don't know what I had for lunch today. Um, I gave it a 3.5. I thought there were important plot beats, but it was kind of boring just because of the fact that it doesn't lead to anything. It just kind of feeds you more information. Usually, these part two of these two-parters, although we don't get a resolution, like stuff actually happens. Like in terms of I don't know. I mean, yeah, the chase stuff was a little bit of action, but it's usually a little bit more frenetic as far as you're here, you're there, you're stuck in a burning no, you're stuck on a train or you're in Korea. I mean, stuff is happening that gets you interested in the story, or like the second part of Dwayne Barry, where Mulder's chasing after him because he's got Scully in the trunk. But I didn't. This one kind of bored me a little bit. I don't even know what Scully did for most of this episode. Do you remember what did Scully do?
No, Jeremiah leaves her because she doesn't know anything. And then, yeah, we don't really see much of her for the rest of the episode, actually. It's mostly Fox and Jeremiah being chased by the bounty hunter. I can't even recall if we even see her at the end, actually.
It says here on the wiki, meanwhile, Scully and Pendrell report to Skinner in the Office of Professional Responsibility on the data being tracked by the Jeremiah Smiths, because we
Oh,
remember
that's
there's a
right.
whole bunch
That's
of
her
them.
contribution is the
Yeah.
smallpox revelation. Yeah.
Uh, so then after that doesn't really mention her. X does do something important, which is what Pete was mentioning, because
Yeah.
they find out that he is the informant. He's been working with the smoking man, but he was able to figure out that he was the one that was leaking information. So he's shot by the gray-haired man as he heads towards the elevator, but he does crawl to Mulder's apartment, writing the words SRSG with his blood before dying, which leads
Which
Mulder to
is
Marita Covarrubias, an assistant to the special representative of the Secretary General. So that's it. Okay, we do move the story forward in that sense, and the what do you call it? And that's it. I mean, more of the. It's all kind of going towards the movie. We all know that the movie is where a lot of this stuff kind of is going to come to a head and either be resolved or not resolved. So now we get to episode number 2, which is a big fan favorite, and I was looking forward to watching it. I thought it was a little bit later in the season, but it's right here in the second episode, and it is called Home. And those X File fans out there probably know that it was banned. It was one of the I think the only X Files episode to not be allowed to be re-aired after it aired, and I think it was banned in Europe. Some I was on some group that said that in England they didn't show it at all. It originally aired on October 11, 1996, and to 18.85 million viewers, written by Glenn Morgan and James Wong, directed by Kim Manners, got a 9 rating on IMDb. When a deformed baby's body is found buried in a baseball field, Mulder and Scully investigate a family suspected of inbreeding. So, caught me by surprise that this was the second episode, but boy, was I happy. It still holds up. Still just as freaky, still just as visceral, and totally understandable why it got banned. Because I'm like, oh my god, they aired this on broadcast television. A lot of blood, a lot of violence, a lot of inbreeding, and stuff that you probably don't want to be talking about on prime time on broadcast TV. I was kind of upset that finally the X Files, they got a nice black character, but they all get killed. But hey, it's the X Files. Um, but pretty much classic, guys. I mean, the show starts off, or the episode starts off real grim with them burying a baby. That's the teaser, so you already know you're in for some rough stuff. These three deformed guys out there burying a child, and then we got a baseball game, and they're all with these little kids. Everything's all fun and happy. Kind of has a David Lynch quality to it, and similar to David Lynch is Blue Velvet, where they find a year in the grass. In this case, they find a little baby's hand in the sand where it was buried the night before. I mean, or we imagine the night before, could have been a couple days before. And that's what starts the investigation. Mulder and Scully go out there to this little town called Home with, I don't know, maybe like 1,000 residents or something, very small number of people there. And and it still manages to be funny. They make some nice jokes about, it being like Mayberry, and
Yes.
Emo kind of wishes that he could live in a place like that, which I believe he ends up fulfilling. If we go into like the post X Files season 10 and 11, I think he does live out on a little farm, so he does fulfill his dream of living out in the middle of nowhere. And they're trying to figure out, what is this baby. It was so nasty when Scully does the autopsy, and they actually show, that's what's so cool about this episode, they actually show the little deformed baby, and it's like, usually we leave it up to the imagination, but great makeup job for the deceased child. And all fingers point to this family of inbred folk, who could have possibly raped a woman, and this was the love child of this rape. Except that they're not raping nobody. They're taking care of Mama, who's under the bed, which you can see there. And man, I will say, I jumped when I saw this when she turns, because there's a scene where Mulder and Scully, they go in the house and they're looking for evidence of somebody in there, and then they hear this something under the bed, and it's all dark, and then boom, they pop her out and she screams, and oh, what a great actress. The lady who played the mom is, wait, I gotta get her name out here, sorry, Mrs. Peacock, Karen
Mm.
Conoval. She did a wonderful job. The voice, the mannerisms. She went all in. Canadian American actress. Look at that. Nice. And no, she did it up. She did it up. Loved it. And so the episode just pretty much follows these brothers who are realizing that they can't live this life that they had been living, trying to make another child. Because I believe, what is it? Is the older brother the the older brother is the father, but also the brother of the two younger ones, I guess, right? He's the one that's
Yes.
he's the one that, because the actual father died when they had like a car accident,
Mm.
and So what they're trying to do is keep this family line alive. Okay, the mom really wants to keep this family life alive, and that's why she's under the bed. She's got no legs, no arms, because of the accident. But they also have some genetic um, deformations, and
Yeah,
they're just doing their best. You know, he's doing his best because it's worked out two times, if you want to say worked out. Okay, but you know,
yeah,
they got two out of this whole inbreeding scenario. So they're doing their best to keep the peacock line alive. So I got nothing bad to say about this, except for okay, the end. Let's say one little criticism is how did they get away? It's not like they're the most innocuous folks that you'd ever
yeah,
see. They're driving in this old car. I think it's even one of those that has the what do you call it? Like a convertible. And like, how do they end up getting away? It doesn't really explain, but you just suspend belief because it's such a good episode. And it made me want to watch Home 2, which I completely forgot. I know I saw it when the new seasons came out. I think it was season 10. And I remember liking it, but for whatever reason, I cannot remember 1 second of it. So I can't wait till our retro reviews get us back to season 10 and I can watch Home 2 because, hey, they did get away. So for however many years since season 4 and when the X Files came back, people have been wondering what happened to the Peacock. So that episode explains it a little bit. So I give this one 5 stars. This is definitely one of my favorites X Files episodes. What do you think of this one,
yeah.
Pete?
I wouldn't go that far, but it definitely. I'm like you. I don't actually remember this one very well. I know if I didn't catch it when it first aired, and I'm sure I did because I was pretty much hooked by this time. I definitely would have caught it when I bought the DVD set in China. So it rang a bell, but it wasn't one of those episodes like Pusher, for example, where I was like, I remember that episode vividly, and I'm looking forward to it. But it definitely sort of came out of nowhere at me because I couldn't quite remember it at first, and then yeah, it's really nasty. There's a lot of elements of some pretty famous horror movies in there, like The Hills Have Eyes. It kind of has that aspect
Mm-hmm.
to it. They also kind of remind you a bit of the Sawyer family from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes,
Just these like disgustingly dirty inbred hillbillies with like bare minimum of like brain function, but a high level of menace and hostility. So yeah, it reminded me a bit of that. The Wrong Turn franchise kind of goes that way. And there's actually a great book by Jack Ketchum that I believe is called Off Season that dwells in similar territory to this like abandoned group of people that live isolated from society and have inbred for generations and are now just these like nasty ass inbreeding cannibalistic savages with hideous appearances. So it had all that. One thing about it, though, as you mentioned, was it did have some humor in it, and a lot of the humor actually played on family values, particularly as it relates to Scully. This is the first time we find out about Scully's latent desire to be a mother, which she's
mm-hmm.
never previously mentioned. She's a bit shook up when they find the baby, and Mulder asks her, what's wrong, and she's like, "Well, I'm kind of projecting, I guess. I don't see like how someone could just like throw away a child like this." And then there's a great dialogue they have where Mulder says, "Well, just find yourself a man with spotless genetic makeup and a really high tolerance for being second guessed, and start pumping out little Uber Scullys." And Scully replies, "What about your family?" And he says, "Aside from the need for corrective lenses and the tendency to be abducted by extraterrestrials involved in international government conspiracy, The Mulder family passes genetic muster. So throughout all this, they're still cracking jokes, but a lot of the humor is derived from the unlikely scenario of Scully as a mother.
Yeah, yes, I do remember that scene. They're sitting on the bench, right, with that talking about that. Yeah, no, it has its funny moments, and that's the thing. It really pops. What I like about this episode, it's dark, and I like that you mentioned Texas Chainsaw because that's probably one of my top 10 movies of all time. Definitely my favorite horror movie. And Hills Have Eyes too. I haven't seen that in a while, although I don't think I've ever seen the original. I've seen the remake, which isn't too bad. But in either case, yes, it's definitely got those elements in it. And I do remember watching it first run and being shocked as a kid. I was like, what the hell? And then never seeing it again because they just stopped playing it. It was just too much for the censors, I guess, for the censoring board. And I was looking forward to it, and it holds up. It holds up. It doesn't feel like 90s TV. It feels like something that could be on. I mean, I've never seen this show, but whatever, like American Horror Story or whatever, whatever the new
Right.
cool horror series is of the day. And in fact, I had a friend over and I watched it with him, because I was talking to him on the phone while watching it. And I was like, I'll call you back in a bit because I'm watching this. And then he came over and he really dug it too. He was like, oh, that was really cool. So that doesn't always happen with every X Files episode because some of them feel like a 90s show with the pacing and this Mark Snow kind of ponderous music and this and that and the third. But this one definitely feels like a slice of as modern as you can get with the TV show. So I dig it. Most people dig it too. It's usually top 10 for a lot of folks as far as X Files. It's definitely Monster of the Week. Definitely up there. Can't say I felt the same about the next episode, but I'll let Pete talk about Telico or Teleco, however you pronounce that. This one made
Yes.
the vulture list, by the way.
Oh, I'm not
Yeah.
surprised. I'm not
And I kind
surprised.
of agree with some of their points. I mean, he's crying a lot on that vulture list, but this one's not. Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't read that part of the Vulture article. I can imagine why it would be there, but for me, that's not the issue. It's kind of a silly it's kind of a silly story that takes itself too seriously. It tries to be like a commentary on the plight of immigrants and fear of foreigners. But the thing is, in this case, the immigrant and the foreigner is a bad guy. So, I mean, in the fear of him is not completely unfounded. Although they do
Yeah.
go a little PC and have most of his victims also be other immigrants, except for the poor caseworker who's trying to help him. He has so much faith. He's one of these like immigration advocate types who's like, trying to like break down the discrimination and the xenophobia. And then the bad guy gets him and it's like, serves you right. Too much misplaced trust, brother. But yeah,
Yep.
where some of this vulture criticism is coming from, basically, the episode starts with a dude from, is it Burkina Faso, who's been found on a plane, and he's dead of mysterious causes, and he's gone albino. So basically, there's a killer out there who's turning black men into albinos. And as the episode progresses, it's no mystery who's doing it. It's this other dude that was on the same flight. And the long and short of his story, it follows his struggle to become a naturalized citizen to the United States, but it is revealed that he has no pituitary gland. And so, in order to get all the hormones, I'm not a biology expert, but they mention it in the episode, all the vital things that the pituitary gland gives you, he has to kill other dark skinned men and drink their hormones, leaving them albino husks. So I guess the criticism from the Vulture episode would be that it, instead of addressing xenophobia, it plays up to it. But to me, that's not really the. At least it's not the intended message. But the fact is, I was reading reviews of Hayan Ali Hirsi's new book out, which is called Prey, and she's a Somali woman who used to work with the UN in the Netherlands, and she lives in the United States now. And her book is all about how immigration from Muslim majority countries is directly connected to an increase in sexual assaults and an erosion of women's rights in Europe. And most people couldn't write this book. But she's an ex Muslim black Somalian woman who was a victim of female genital mutilation. So she's kind of an expert on this. And the only reason I bring that up is because, sometimes the immigrants are the bad guys, like in this episode. That doesn't
I
make it a
feel
good
you.
episode, in my opinion. I just thought the story was kind of silly. The social and political overtones, I'm completely neutral on. Actually, I didn't feel strongly about it one way or the other. I just thought the story was a bit silly.
Yeah, I thought the story was silly, and for me, it goes. I mean, I'll read a little bit of here. This little paragraph they wrote. I mean, my personal notes, because I didn't even remember this was part of the this article. Um, but as I'm watching it, I wrote X Files writers do not know how to write for people of color and women to an extent because they do mess up Scully a lot and a few female characters. But pretty boring episode that again uses race as the scare factor. So it was similar to that Hell Money episode. It's like they they make the culture like something from the person's culture be the boogeyman, which isn't kind of by today's standards even is not really something that would fly. But whatever, it's the 90s. Let me say, maybe a show run by and starring white people should steer away from writing stories hinging on black victims' pigmentation. Um, and like Pete said, Mulder does try to make a little bit of skepticism that hey, maybe um, these men lose all their pigmentation in hair in the process of dying. Okay, maybe some type of genetic disorder, etc., etc. But at the end, it's just okay. It's a mysterious evil spirit out of Burkina Faso folklore. It's hard to really buy Taliko as a commentary against racism. Like Hell Money, this episode ends up being a foreign culture mystery that touches on racism, yet still takes place exclusively among a single race community. So that's where I agree with the writer in that sense because one thing that I noticed rewatching the X Files is, and again, guys, I say this like it's not like I got zero issue with this, but it's a very white show. I didn't really, I hadn't uh, really noticed that before. And again, that's fine. Like just like there's some shows that are very Latino, some shows are very black, some shows are very mixed. X Files just happens to be an extremely white show as far as how many of the characters and stuff like that. And so when they touch on anything black, and they've done it a few times, they had the voodoo one, with the Haitians in the what was that? It was another immigration thing where they were stuck in like immigration hell, or
Yeah,
with the ones with the guy that the one with the chickens too, where they were cannibals, even though they weren't black folks, but it was the fact that the guy crashed his plane in some indigenous tribe or something and learned some voodoo from them. So when they do have black characters, with exceptions, obviously X is a great character, but when it's part of the boogeyman factor, it's a lot. They kind of pigeonholed. blacks as being into the spiritual voodoo, whatever side of things. That's why I think I love that episode so much with what's his name? Tony Todd? I always get his name wrong.
Yeah.
Because it didn't. It was just a pissed off vet, and he wasn't into voodoo. He wasn't trying to bring up the spirits of the ancestors. He got experimented on. He couldn't sleep, and all of a sudden he could project his dreams and his visions onto people, and he's getting revenge. It was cool. It was just like a character. That could have been a black guy, a white guy, a Chinese guy. It worked. But when they write black or Native Americans, oh, well, I've already gone over that and ranted about that a bunch of times. Chris Carter's version of the Indian, the very slow talking but very spiritual Indians. Instead, a lot of Indians are just, in casinos having beer, getting drunk, but whatever. Or just living regular lives, nowadays, members of Congress, which is really cool. And with the Asians, man, that Hell Money episode, I was in Portuguese, they have this great expression that I don't know if it translates well into Portuguese. They call it vergonha alheia, which means it's like secondhand embarrassment, like you're embarrassed for somebody, And I'm
Okay.
like watching this and I'm like, oh my God, if I were in like somebody of Asian descent watching this, I would feel so much embarrassment for how they're representing the Chinese culture. So I love you, X Files. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. But I'm not below. Would I be below criticizing it or above criticizing it? I guess above criticizing it. And so yeah, it is what it is. Not my favorite. This Talico. I gave it 2 stars. And I felt so bad for the immigration guy. He was just
Yeah, I know. Such an idealist, but
yeah, I
that's
know,
what
and he always
idealism
gets
gets
killed.
you.
But then in the end, it's exactly what Pete said. It's like that's where it's fucked up because they're trying to make it be like, yeah, not all Haitians are gonna use black magic against you, except that's like the main villain
Yeah, but
of
he
this.
wasn't Haitian. He wasn't Haitian. He was African, and it wasn't black
No,
magic.
no, I'm going
Yeah.
back to that other one, that other
Okay.
episode. It
Right.
was like
Yeah.
that, and then they did the same thing here. It's like
Yeah, but no, no. In the Haitian episode, though, it was the fucking commanding officer of the base, the white guy who learned voodoo from the Haitian immigrants,
Yeah, but then
and
the
he
Haitian immigrant kind of didn't he do some shit to him in the end? Wasn't he the one that
uh,
was killing off all the guards and shit before
yeah,
he got
he was yeah, that's true, but
yeah.
the main bad guy was of
Oh,
course
yeah, the main
the
bad guy was the sergeant. But in either case, man, do better X Files with episodes like this. It's silly though. I mean, they tried. It was a different time. Um, which doesn't make it right, y'all, when I say it was a different time, but it just that's the facts. There weren't that many people of color working on TV like we have today. Like today, you get something like Lovecraft Country, which is run by a black woman. So when she's writing about black stuff, you get a sense that, okay, she kind of knows what she's talking about. Back in the 90s and the 80s and whatever, hey, I mean, there weren't that many black people in the writers' seats and producer seats actually being able to tell these stories. So you get what you get. So let's move ahead. Enough about that episode. Let me I got to stop sharing this and go back to my pretty little slideshow. And we're going to move to Un Ruhi. And is this me or you? I think this is me, right? Yeah, because I'm
yes,
the
it
evens
is.
tonight. I'm the evens tonight. And decent episode. I actually didn't mind this one. Give it a
No.
3.5. Another, speaking of things that I don't think, we just talked a little bit about what I don't think the X Files does well, which are these type of episodes where they're dealing with like some culture and the boogeyman is something out of their culture. One thing that the X Files does excellently, even if it's not like a classic episode, is the Psycho Killer. Psycho
Yeah.
Killer. Qu'est-ce que c'est? Fa 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 fa. So,
And this is a Vince Gilligan episode as well.
oh, is it? Yeah, actually, I forgot to do
Yeah.
my usual little thingamajig here at the beginning, and I forgot it for this last episode that we did, and I didn't do it for this. So, by the way, Teleco was aired on October 18th. Has a 6.9 rating on IMDb. I think that's decently like just about right. Written by Howard Gordon and directed by James Charleston. But moving ahead to Unruhi, another German word here, and it's October 27th, 19 million viewers, as Pete said, written by Vince Gilligan and directed by Rob Bowman, has an 8.3 rating on IMDb. To catch a twisted killer, Mulder and Scully attempt to decipher the clues he unwittingly leaves behind. Psychic photographs revealing his
Mm-hmm.
darkest secrets. And I actually have a page open somewhere. I have like a million tabs open about psychic photography because Mulder does bring up Ted Serios, who was famous for faking thought photographs, photos which showed what was in his mind. So cool that they took this little nugget of, whatever, pseudo science history and made a whole episode out of it. Kind of freaky episode, a couple gets struck with a needle. At the beginning of it, there's a girl going into a little mini mart to get, I guess they're running away from something. And she gets her picture taken. And then as she goes outside, find out her boy that was waiting for her in the car is dead. He got stabbed with a needle. And then she gets stuck with the same needle, but she gets captured by the dude and then tortured and killed, presumably. But what's the X file is that when Mulder and Scully show up in this little town to investigate, they look at the picture and they see her screaming. And it's similar to the one I have here on the slide, just that that's Scully there.
Mm-hmm.
And you got those fingers. It's real freaky, this picture. Like, however they did that was real nice, the effect they did for this picture. Um, so Mulder's theory is that he is this guy, LaFont, okay? Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong person. What's the name of the bad guy?
The guy's name is Jerry Schnauz.
There is Jerry Schnalls. Yep.
Yes.
Played by Pre Taylor Vince. Did a great job there. But he when he captures these people, he gives them this kind of lobotomy, right? To try to take out these evil spirits that he thinks is inside their head.
Yes,
But
the Howlers.
yes, the Howler. So, Mr. Mulder, when he looks at these pictures, he thinks that he's unwittingly the killer, reflecting what he wants to do to these people in these photographs. And of course, Scully's like, come on, Mulder. But eventually, she kind of doesn't have a good explanation for what's happening. She blames it on the maybe heat damage on the film, blah, blah, blah. But eventually, the clues lead to the killer. They capture him. He escapes, which is kind of silly how he was able to escape. Like, is there only one police officer in the police precinct? But whatever, he escapes. And I was really digging it. And then, Pete, I kid you not, I'm like, this is about what, the 30-minute point of the episode or so? And I'm like, if Scully gets captured again, I'm gonna be so mad. And that's exactly what happens. Like they're investigating that's the only reason I not gave this episode a few notches down because we've played that out so many times before, where Scully gets captured by the killer and she needs to be saved at the last minute, which is exactly what happens. They're in the Photoshop again investigating. Scully goes outside to her car, which is parked way out in the middle, like woof, like super far from where they're investigating for whatever reason. And dude is hiding under her car, pricks her with whatever he's pricking people with to kind of, um, what's the word? Neutralize them.
Sedate them, yes.
Yeah, sedate them. and then drives off with Scully, and I'm like, mother fucking shit, another Scully needs to be saved episode, but whatever. Because then I mean, at least the payoff is cool because the killer's real cool. So, he's got Scully tied up and she's trying to do some psychobabble with him to keep him from ice picking her brain out. And what I like about these type of episodes with the X-Files is that, much like many of our listeners probably, I dig like true crime stuff. There's true crime documentaries in what makes a person just go mad. Like I watched a really good one at the beginning of the year about the perfect husband, perfect family, had like three kids, and then one day the wife and the two daughters, I think it was two daughters, just end up dead. No, end up missing, and the police come over. The father's all like, "Oh my God, where are they?" And then it ends up he killed them. And you're like, "Whoa, shit!" Like, how does somebody go from that, just the perfect husband, to I really need to kill my two young daughters? They're like 4 and 8 or something, and my wife. He stuffed them inside of uh, like like a pipe or something, and out in the middle of nowhere, like a corn mill or something. And um, like, what drives somebody to do that? Obviously, the scientific approach, the Scully approach, is that there's chemical imbalances, man. Some people are just born with their marbles not right, you know? Or, some folks will think it's some traumatic event that drives people to that. But there's some folks that, I don't know, like, it's just, they weren't born right. The chemical
Yep.
imbalance is there. And the Mulder approach, which I think is cool, and that's where the X Files comes in, is what if people they're just taken over by something, or they truly believe that there's demons out there that they need to protect their kids from. Like, remember, Pete, I think we talked about on this podcast before, back in the 90s, where there was like a string of moms who were killing their babies. The famous one, I think, was the one where she drove the car into the lake and
Yeah.
and killed her children. It's like, what? And her defense was, I believe, something like that. It's like, I needed to save them, like Jesus told me to do it or something.
Yeah, that turned out to be bullshit though. I think it came out in
Well,
court that she was dating a guy who
yeah,
didn't want to be with kids, so she like basically got rid of her kids to marry the guy that she wanted.
which is similar to what the guy did in this documentary that I saw. He was dating this other lady, and he just needed to get single real quick. There's a
Yeah.
thing called divorce, motherfuckers. Although in the case of this other lady, I guess she couldn't divorce her own kids. But in either case, I don't believe it, you know, but I do like to open my mind up to the possibility of something like that because it's so twisted. It's something so twisted that, in a way, it's almost like a way of coming to terms with it, that, man, maybe there are demons out there. Maybe there are things that we don't see with our eyes that are around certain people, and they're trying to actually save those that they murder. It's twisted, but that's what the X Files is about. It's about twisted. So episodes like this, I love for that, when they get these psycho killers who are either possessed by something or are trying to save people from something that they see and the rest of the people can't see. So I give this one high marks, minus Scully again being damsel in distress at the end. Let me just give just a few more things here, Pete, and I'll let you go. Um, Mulder leaves town to check on psychic photo. Oh, that's the note that I wrote. I said Mulder leaves town to check on psychic photo. If Scully gets kidnapped, I'll be pissed, and that's exactly what happened. And Scully
Yeah.
gets to speak German and psychoanalyze, which is really nice because I love German. But female abduction episode with an ice pick lobotomy, you can't get better than that. Come on, it's
Yeah.
fucking X-Files. So 3.5 for me. I thought it was a solid episode, not classic, but pretty damn solid.
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered it all. Felt pretty much the same way. The concept was really cool, psychic photography, and the fact that that actually has a factual basis was pretty interesting. Um, there was actually a guy who claimed to be able to do this. So it's cool that they took this obscure Ripley's Believe It or Not fact and built a show around it. The villain, Pruitt Taylor Vince, was really good. He was especially freaky on those big ass stilts. Actually, how Scully
Mhm.
actually catches him. She's looking for some. They're looking for someone who appeared to be unusually tall, and all the victims were taken around construction sites. So they're checking out construction sites. She's interviewing the foreman, and lo and behold, he happens to have these big ass stilt legs that make him look really big. And I liked his motivation too. Basically, they find out that he was previously institutionalized for killing his father with an axe handle, I believe, um,
Mhm.
to stop the abuse of him and his sister. And we find out his whole backstory is that his father was sexually abusing his sister, and he explained to the kids that it's not my fault. I have things in my head making me do this. He called them the howlers, and our little schnauzer here, or whatever his name is, Jerry. He takes this literally. He believes that like everybody's got these like bad things in their head, and it's his duty to take them out with lobotomies. And the guy's got real conviction. That's what makes him scary. Like when someone legitimately
Mhm.
believes something insane, there's like no reasoning with them. So yeah, that's what I really liked about the villain, and I like the concept of the show. And other than that, you've pretty much covered it all.
Yeah, great little episode. And that was absolutely like you nailed it. Like he believed so wholeheartedly in what he was seeing that there's no talking him out of it. And I like how he played. He didn't play like a scary dude, you know, because we've had some psycho killers in the past on the X Files, but they look kind of messed up, like scary messed up. You know, this guy didn't look like he was all together either, but he just looked like that kind of, you know, the guy that you give the menial job to. You know, he's gonna pick out the trash or maybe clean the windows, and you're like, oh yeah, that's Bob. You know, like actually, I shouldn't even say this, but there's a guy that works in our extra in the supermarket across the street from my house that's like that. He has a little bit of a deficiency. You can tell people are just nice to him because he seems like a nice guy. And that
Right.
was like this guy, you know, just okay. He's a little slow, but we like Bob. You know, he does his work and then he goes home, and then Bob ends up being a psycho killer with a nice pick because he sees howlers in his mind, and it's like, yeah, if that don't freak you out, you know. And by the way, guys, I'm sure this guy is a real nice dude. Although I overheard a conversation the other day with him and one of the cashiers where he said his wife left him. So you never know. You never know. Um, and somebody in the X Files wiki here said, I never got the clue about the fingers Mulder was seen in the photo and the cemetery. And a fandom user responded, in the newspaper photograph of the father's obituary, there were only 5 white tombstones, considering they hadn't buried him yet. And when they did bury him, they added a 6th tombstone, which corresponds to the 6 white fingers in Scully's photo, which is why Mulder called out, and his father makes 6. So that's the reason for that. So nice little detail, nice little catch there. And this episode marks the first episode in the X Files new time slot. Up to this point, the X Files had always aired on Friday night. From now on until the end of the series, the show would air on Sunday night. Really, I thought it was a later episode that did that, but okay, if that's what they say, then that's what they say. And Unruhi is unrest, so that's what he sees in
Yes.
people. Um, Despite having taken German at college, apparently, Scully's first spoken Unruh as she stares at the face of the killer, comes out completely wrong, sounding more like Unruhi. Though later in the episode, when she's speaking German and tied up, she pronounces it correctly. And I read here that their German was so bad that in German TV they just had to dub over them. But uh, yeah, the usually foreign language in the X Files is not a forte. And let's get to the next episode, which is The Field Where I Died. And this episode aired on November 3rd, 1995 to 19.85 million viewers. Written by Glenn Morgan and James Wong. Has a 7.0 rating on IMDb. Rob Bowman directed. While investigating a cult compound, Mulder and Scully meet a female member who seems to have access to her past lives and uncover a startling personal revelation. So, what's up with this one, Pete? How do you feel about it?
Oh boy. Um, yeah, so this one starts pretty interestingly. They're doing regular FBI shit, actually helping out their fellow agents instead of hiding in the basement. Basically, they're taking down a cult that's sitting on a stash of weapons. It's like some Jim Jones, David Koresh type shit, but they don't find any weapons. So they have a real problem because basically, for all intents and purposes, they've busted completely innocent people who are a little strange because he's married to all his female cult members. So there's something fishy going on there, but they don't have anything they can really hold him with or charge him with. And they don't know who their mysterious informant is. And they are interviewing one of the wives when she suddenly switches personalities and they realize she's the informant, but this informant appears to be a man who is alive in like the 1950s. And so it looks like she's got a bad case of multiple personality disorder, but it turns out she is experiencing past lives and she has multiple past lives. And this is where the episode goes really kind of downhill because it turns out that one of those past lives, she and Mulder were lovers in the Civil War. Mulder was a Confederate soldier who died at the very same site where their compound is. And Mulder is pretty intrigued. She goes under past life regression hypnosis, and she hits a lot of nails on the head, which are also pretty silly. The smoking man is in one of her past lives. He's a Gestapo officer. Samantha's in there somewhere in his past lives, and Mulder buys it. The recurring thing with Mulder is that he believes in everything except things that other people adamantly believe in. So in this situation, you would think he'd be pretty skeptical, and he's resistant at first, but he goes in hook, line, and sinker. Like he believes everything about this past life regression, and yeah, that didn't work for me. The past life stuff, especially the way it incorporated all these supporting characters from the show. I can't remember if they had Skinner in there, but I know that Scully's sister was in there. Scully was Mulder's sergeant in the Civil War, and yeah, that's basically the core of the story: is Mulder exploring his past life regression. About the only thing that I liked was okay, I like the beginning and I like the end. The beginning because it looks like we're going to get a cool FBI versus cult story, maybe with some supernatural elements. And the ending was actually really emotional. Everybody goes Jonestown. That was actually, despite the fact that I wasn't emotionally invested in any of the characters, it's still sad when like hundreds of people drink poison Kool-Aid. So that was kind of sad. But the middle with all the past life stuff, yeah, didn't work.
I agree with you, and it's here when Mulder does his regression. First, he is a Jewish woman with a son who had the same soul as his sister Samantha. His deceased
Hmm.
father who was Scully, is dead, was taken to a Nazi concentration camp, and the smoking man, of course, was the Gestapo officer. And then
Yeah.
Mulder also recalls his past life from the Civil War when he was a man named Sullivan Biddle, while Melissa was Sarah Kavanaugh, and then Scully, Mulder claims, was his sergeant in the Union Army. So pretty cheesy, especially when it's like,
Yeah.
and the Gestapo officer is the smoky man. I'm like, oh God, come on. I'm gonna read. It's funny. This episode has a lot of comments on the wiki page, and you know what? They're mostly negative. They say, "I'm glad others found this episode as dull as I did. I've seen it maybe 3 times. It's never gotten better. The episode falls flat right on its face. Great idea, but execution was horrific, incredibly boring, except for the Fluke Man reference. I agree with that. Um,
Yes. Yes.
yes. So, yeah, I'm with you. Pete just pretty much broke down the episode. We got the death cult, and it's right around the time of well, I had thought Heaven's Gate when I was watching, but really it was more what's his name? Carradine. Is that his name? No, Carradine is from the fucking Kung Fu. The legend continues. The guy Koresh is
Koresh.
more.
Yeah.
Yes, Koresh. It was right around that time, and actually Chris Carter talks about that I read some wiki stuff on it, and when they were trying to really kind of connect all the Koresh stuff into this. So I agree with Pete. It's cool actually to bring up that you brought up them doing like the heavy duty FBI stuff because we hadn't seen that much earlier, up to season 3. But home, they're all suited up in home. It's not a big operation, but they
Yeah.
do have the vests and everything. This episode, and then the episode that I just saw, the two-part of the Tunguska, where they're in another operation and they got the helmets on and everything. So it's kind of cool to see Mulder and Scully go heavy duty SWAT team FBI action. Um, so yeah, they arrest this Ephesian guy, which is this cult leader, and I like this girl Melissa. Ends up, I just found out her name, by the way, is oops, where did I put it? Her
She was from
name.
Morgan and Wong's Space and Beyond show.
Oh, I didn't watch that.
No,
Um,
I didn't watch it either, but they wrote the episode especially for her, apparently.
Kristen Cloak is her name, and ends up that she actually wrote one of my favorite episodes of the X Files, or co-wrote it with Shannon Hamblin, which is, well, I can't pronounce it. It's translated as "The Truth Is Out There" in Base 64. It's the one where there's almost no dialogue, where Mulder and Scully are at the sushi bar, and they
Yeah,
go to
yeah.
and all hell breaks loose. So she actually co-wrote that episode, which is kind of cool. And she appeared in an episode of Millennium, which, by the way, Pete, I was wondering. Millennium's only got what 2, 3 seasons, and I never watched it all the way through. Maybe we could do a first time watch of that. What do you think?
Yeah,
Any
maybe.
interest?
It's kind of frustrating because I remember I really liked the first season, but after his
Mm-hmm.
wife gets killed, it went really downhill, and then it
Did
never
it?
ended. Yeah, it's one of those series that just abruptly stops. They don't
Mm.
resolve anything.
Yeah, I know he shows up in an episode of the X Files, Frank Black. Yeah, I might watch it all the way through because it was one of those shows that I caught when I caught, but it was kind of difficult to understand what the fuck was going on when I did catch it because it was very mythology heavy. But I know I liked at least 2 or 3 episodes from it, so I might just do one myself after we finish the X Files and just watch it all the way through just to see what's up. Get the whole X Files universe down. But anyway, yeah, so the field where I died is referring to Mulder, and he actually died on that field. So he's definitely all about
Hmm.
the past life regression, but he sort of has reason to because during the raid, something calls him to this field. So he and then he finds a bunker where Melissa is hiding with the cult leader. So he can't really explain what it is. So when Melissa starts talking to him about this possible, in all these different voices, at first you think it's like, oh, she's got multiple personality disorder, but then you realize, oh no, she's actually talking as if she's somebody from another life, with Sydney to be
Yeah, she
specific.
was good in it though. She was one of the better
I
things about the episode.
Yeah, I thought she was great. I even wrote down here better than Split, that M. Night Shyamalan movie that everybody seems to really love. I really liked her portrayal of these different characters, from little kids to adults. And the whole
Hmm.
deal is, what Mulder's trying to do is find out where these guns are. And she knows where they are. Well, not she, but Sidney does, the guy that was there during the Civil
Yeah,
War, because he knows where these secret bunkers are, where they're hiding them. So Mulder kind of plays along and kind of asks Scully to play along with him so that they can find out where he's stashing the guns, where the cult leader is stashing the guns. And yeah, the Fluke Man nod is cute, where Mulder
that was a
says,
great line.
after all that we've been through, imagine if we're all kind of connected, and we kind of end up re-meeting each other in life after life, which, by the way, Pete, is the whole theme of Lost, but Lost is done way better than this episode. Yeah, that we just kind of end up meeting the same people over and over and over again. Would you regret any of it? And she's like, no, I would do it all over, except for maybe that Fluke Man episode.
Yeah,
But um, so great nod to Fluke Man once more. And I thought it was funny when Melissa ripped that pretty historic photo. I was like, wait, you can't do that. Did they ever find the bunker? I don't know. But they did arrive at the compound, but not in enough time to save everybody. You gave everybody the Kool-Aid like Johnstown. And Melissa tried to fake it like she drank it, but the leader stayed alive to make sure she drank it with him. And then Mulder shows up inside. He cries. And Glenn, and what's his name, Glenn and James, Morgan and Wong, they rarely do they misfire. This just happens to be one of the misfires. I mean, great
yeah,
concepts, but very humorless. Usually they're so good at the
yeah,
humor. Super boring in the middle. It felt like it was going for the heartstrings, but you can actually tell, like, we're really gonna try to get you with the heartstrings right now. But it tried too hard. It was like so clear that it just, I didn't care. I didn't care about the emotional uh, turmoil that Mulder was going for, because supposedly this was like his wife or somebody in another life. It's like, I don't give a shit, like, I care about whether or not you and Scully are ever gonna do nasty. So I gave it 3.5 though. Not a bad episode, but definitely forgettable. It tried. And now, last episode for tonight, guys, is, I love this name, the Sanguinarium.
yeah,
And its original air date was November 10th, 1996. 18.85 million viewers, written by Vivian and Valerie Mayhew, and
yeah.
directed by Kim Manners. It gets 7.5 rating on IMDb. A series of bizarre murders in a hospital's plastic surgery unit lead Mulder and Scully to believe that witchcraft is somehow involved. And first note that I took down on this is that it felt like a prelude to Nip Tuck, which was a great little series on FX, which kind of, I guess, kind of like Millennium, started out great. First two seasons, maybe even three, are incredible, and then it just didn't know what to do with itself, and it just got so bad. But if anybody wants to watch a cool little show, check out Nip Tuck. That was during the FX golden era where they had the Shield, and actually, the girl that plays the special, like the new X, she was in the Shield too. I had forgotten. She was in The
Yes,
Walking Dead, and she was in the
yes.
Shield. I had forgotten. Great show
Yes,
too.
and she
It
was in
was
The Americans as well.
great actress, man.
Yeah.
Hot actress too. Oh my goodness, she does some. Well, anyway, I won't talk about that now. And so, Sanguinarium, bizarre episode. I couldn't tell whether I liked it or not. It took me till like the very end to kind of give it a rating. I gave it a 4 star, which is higher than all the episodes we've talked about till now, except for Home. Uh, but I just thought it was so nasty in the end, and I liked the
It had some.
nastiness of it. You know,
There was
like
some
it, like
good gore in this one.
yes, extreme gore. So basically, it starts out with the whole teaser is that this doctor is supposed to go into surgery, except that he goes into this other room. I guess he was supposed to do a what do you call those? The liposuction on this lady.
Liposuction, yeah.
Yes, but he ends up liposuctioning this to death, this other
Yeah.
dude, and you're like, what the fuck? And there's this little nurse there, Nurse Rebecca Wade, um, who seems so like she's not going to be a part of anything, in the teaser. Ends up she's like the key to it all, and she's got really bad teeth. I did notice that too, and she's starts getting a little bit more suspicious, this character, because she's around all these doctors that are all kind of doing the same thing. They're being possessed by something instead of there was the old lady that got lasered to death, right? Like he was supposed to
Yeah.
laser something off of somebody else, and oh, that was a great scene. Yeah, like the old
It
lady, poor
severs her
thing, man.
brainstem.
It's like nothing bad's gonna happen to her. I get so no, it's just a simple. I think she's gonna do a face peel or something, and then the guy goes in there with the laser, and it goes through her cheek, like from one side to the other.
Yeah, he
Real
severs her
nasty.
brainstem, man.
Was it? I thought it went through her face. Oh no, year to year. Yeah, so probably her. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it goes from one year to the other. So uh, awesome, awesome, awesome gore, and also classic episode because you get this GIF here that is a classic one that everybody posts in the what was written under this is all seasons of the X Files explained in one image, which is this one right here. I'm just like Mulder's like, I'm trying, and Scully's like, this shit again. Um,
Yeah.
so ends up that the there's witchcraft going on over here, and
Yes.
the nurse is trying to actually protect the patients, but she's not doing a really good job at it
No.
because one of the doctors is keeping himself young and fresh by kind of feeding off I guess what is he using, like the blood of these people or something. He's doing some witchy shit to get, with these patients in order to keep himself looking good, you know?
Hmm.
And his is Dr. Franklin. Who is the actor that plays Dr. Franklin, by the way, Pete? Because you're good at this stuff. He seemed like somebody that's been in a whole bunch of stuff before. Richard Bamer? Do you know him from
Doesn't
anything?
ring a bell, no.
He's an American film actor. Let me look at his.
Oh my goodness. He played Tony in West Side Story. How about
You're
that?
kidding me.
No.
What? Oh wow, yeah, he started in 1951. Yeah, look at that. That's crazy. Well, he changed. Silent
Yeah.
Night, Deadly Night 3. Okay. And then nothing really that amazing on as far as movies other than West Side Story, which is classic. The Man from Uncle, Moonlighting, but nothing. Yeah, Elvis Meets Nixon television film. He was in Twin Peaks as Benjamin Horne. Shit, that's where I know him from Twin fucking Peaks. Wait up. Oh yeah, now I know his face. Oh yeah, Pete. When you watch Twin Peaks, you'll know. Yes, I was like, I know this face from somewhere. One of the best characters from Twin Peaks. He's the CEO of Horn Industries, owner of the Great Northern Hotel, was the richest citizen of Twin Peaks. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so now I remember where he. Yeah, so more Twin Peaks connections, guys. Um, so yeah, he's the evil doctor, guys. He's taking your souls or whatever to keep himself young and the nurse is trying to stop this. Okay, so she's trying to be the good Samaritan, but she really sucks at it. Like there's this whole
Mm-hmm.
scene where they show up at his house and she's filled the pool with blood and waits till he gets into the uh, bathtub, and it's like, why go through all of that to not be able to just wait till the guy turned his back and kick him down the stairs or something like. Anyway, she's not the greatest savior of people going in for plastic surgery, but definitely I loved all the camera angles showing the mirrors in Franklin's house. So there are so many nods to the whole culture of beauty, especially Mulder all the time, like looking at his nose.
Yeah.
um, and the in the mirrors everywhere, even inside the house, like the angles where they're going in, like the camera would show the mirror first and then Dr. Franklin. And I felt that there was a Scully recycled line where at the very end, one of the doctors, the Dr. Franklin does some witchy shit on her and she swallows a bunch of stuff. And
Yeah, he teleports surgical
like a bunch of.
instruments into her insides.
Oh, so nasty. But then they're like, this woman could die, and then Scully goes in and it's like, that's what I'm trying to prevent. She said that same thing when Mulder was they're trying to defrost Mulder, and they're like, no, you got to keep him cold. Um, so then at the end of it all, dude's got a new face. Yeah, he's a new doctor,
Yes,
Dr. Hartman. He
and we
gets
actually
away.
see him rip his old face off too, which is really tricky
Yes,
as
which was
well.
great too. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like this episode, I was trying to figure it out. It took me about like 20 minutes, like almost halfway through it, to figure. I'm like, do I like this? Where's this going? And the story is nothing special, but they did it with so much gusto. And the gore was so good, the acting was so good, and everything just kind of fell into place just the right way. And the fact that he got away at the end and he just got a new face and he's gonna work in another clinic, and it's such a slight at the whole Hollywood beauty industry. I said, okay, I'm giving it 4 stars. It's not, it doesn't even deserve 4 stars really, but it as far as just like on a technical level, writing and stuff, but I'm giving it to it. And it's not episode 24, by the way. It's episode 4. I just forgot to change that. But anyway, go
Episode
ahead, Pete.
episode 6. Yeah,
6,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. Not much more to say about this. I liked it, but I liked it particularly like just for the sheer nastiness and the gore of it. It
Yeah.
felt to me like because I don't think these writers have written any other X Files episodes that I'm aware of, and to me it felt like a tryout episode. Like they do that in comic books a lot. They'll give somebody who's submitted like some work a chance to do like a filler issue or a filler episode and show us what you got and let's see if it's any good. And this kind of felt like one of those. It seemed like the writers were really trying to make this commentary about people's vanity as it pertains to social as it pertains to plastic surgery and the obsession with beauty, youth, and good looks. The villain is in pursuit of eternal youth, but that kind of gets lost amidst all the liposuctioning to death and faces getting peeled off and brain stems getting severed. Um, that and even if it hadn't, I think the way it was presented was almost just a little too obvious, like the shallowness of plastic surgery and beauty obsession message. It was just too, pardon the pun, in your face. Like there weren't a lot of layers to it. So it's
Not at all.
basically, yeah, it's taking place at a plastic surgery clinic. We get that it's going to have something to do with plastic surgery. That's where the commentary is going to come from. But really, the saving grace of the episode was just all like the gory, witchy shit. The social commentary
Exactly.
was meh, just straight up gore episode. Pretty pedestrian in terms of writing, though.
I agree. I agree. I agree. By the way, I was looking up. their IMDb page as you were talking, and look how bizarre this is. Where is it? So Vivian Mayhew, set of sisters, by the way. They only have the one. So they did The Fugitive, okay. Invisible Man, okay. Charm, they wrote a lot for Charm. I know that was a popular show. I've never seen it. They wrote 2 episodes and produced 13. And then you're like, okay, whatever, Vengeance Unlimited. Then they were a writer for The Fugitive, The Visitor, The X-Files. And then, they were the writer for Playboy, 101 Ways to Excite Your Lover, video documentary.
Oh wow.
Editor for Playboy, Girls on Spring Break. And they were thanked 2 times. Special thanks. Playboy, Hot Latin Ladies, and Playboy's Playmate bloopers. So I'm like, wait, where's that? Like, how do you go from the X Files and the Fugitive and Charm to like? And it wasn't. Maybe it was before they got. Hey, yeah, look, this is 91, 91, 95. So maybe before they hit it big with the X Files and Charmed, they were just working their way up. And I guess Playboy is the way to work your way up. Now, I do want to watch. Look at that, Playboy's got a 6.1 rating on IMDb. Um, the I may have to watch some of these documentaries, guys. I love documentaries, by the way. So, and Playmate bloopers might be on Pete's watch lists. 45 minutes, Pete. You can run through this one. What do Playmates like? What's a Playmate blooper? I wonder.
I have no idea, but I did used to get the Playboy channel when I had Act Direct TV, and they do have original programming, so maybe it's just outtakes from that.
Oh, you're supposed to stick it in there, not there. Okay. I'd be interested to know what bloopers these Playmates did. But anyway, guys, long episode tonight, but usually the first and the last episodes of the season recaps are the longest. So thanks for hanging with us. We will be back next week, hopefully, to go through episodes 7 to 12. And we'll start with, with talking about the cigarette smoking man and how he is the definitively the most evil man of all history. Okay? He did it all. He did it all. It's evil. He's the one you call. So, once more, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. I see our subscribers keep going up every week. We get at least another 3 or 4. Some are after we do this, even though we don't get as many views on off of this podcast. Some are off of our Brazil Expat Journal. So it's all cool, man. It's all good. I just thank anybody who's taking time out of their day to listen or just to click and support and be like, yeah, okay, I'll give you a view count, even though I'm not going to listen to an hour of you. So thanks, everybody. And that's about it, Pete. I'm done. Are you
We
done?
got to do our pick, watch or miss.
Oh, shit. Look at that. All right. Uh, let's see. Heron Folk. I gotta say, watch definitely. If you're watching as many X File episodes as we're watching, you gotta watch this one at least because it sets up the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, difficult to skip any of the mythology episodes leading up to the movie, to be honest. And what about you for home?
Yeah, I would definitely say watch. I like this episode quite a bit.
Yeah, well, I love this one, so this is a definite watch for me. And in fact, for me, this is like you got a friend that doesn't know what the X Files is about. Bam, hit him with this. This will get them.
Yeah.
And it worked for me. I mean, I showed it as a first episode to a friend of mine, and he was like, "Oh shit, this was great." And Talico,
You missed home, I think.
no, we were just talking about home.
Did I? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you
I'm sorry.
said you
All right.
liked it. Definite watch. Oh, were you talking
Yeah,
about Heron Folk? I'm sorry.
I was talking about Heron Folk. Yes,
I'm
yes,
sorry.
yes, yes. But yeah, no, home. I'd say watch as well. It's a really, it's one of the more gruesome in terms of icky feelings episodes.
And great makeup. Look at this makeup job they did on her. Great stuff.
Yes.
Um, And Teleco.
Pass.
I'm with the big old pass on this one. Unruhi. Unruhi.
Yeah. Not. It's a good episode, but I'd say it's probably a pass as well.
Pete, I'm with you. It's borderline. Like, I think if you're watching enough of these episodes where you're like, yeah, I'm digging the X Files, watch it. It's like a B side. It's like a decent B side episode,
Yeah.
but not a classic B side. And Field Where I Died.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, I say skip this one unless you need to find a way to get sleep. And Sanguinarium.
Maybe watch Playboy bloopers instead.
You know what? I'm with Pete. Like this one, I think you'll enjoy if you have become a fan. If you've been listening to
Yeah.
these podcasts and you've never seen the X Files and now you're starting to get into it, you'll enjoy it for that. For the gore and the shock. But if you've never seen an episode before and you watch this, you might get bored. The story isn't anything amazing, but the gore is pretty cool. And I love this poster
Yeah.
here. The Doctor will see you now. The X Files presents Sanguinarium. So yeah, that's it, guys. Not the strongest opening to a season. I thought season three opened way stronger too. Also,
Yes.
this is closer to season one as far as because season one had it's had that first episode with the that gave us the conspiracy, and then right after it hit us with Squeeze, and then it just kind of is like kind of pitter pattered through a bunch of so episodes. Season four kind of felt like that. Hit us hard with mythology, hit us with home, and then not terrible but not incredible episodes. So we'll see what happens next week if our opinion changes. So, thanks again, guys. Adios,
Yes.
amigos. It's time for me to go to bed and actually do some more work.
Not in that order.
Yeah, make some money, pay the bills.
Yeah.